the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, says the government is using all the tools at its disposal in a bid to try to bring inflation down. GBNews' business and economics editor, Liam Halligan, has joined us here. Lower end of expectations, 9.1, Liam, was it?
If you look at the headline numbers, I mean, it's still 9.1 consumer price index inflation, which is still 4.5 times the Bank of England's 2% target. So it's still a fresh 40-year high. Yeah. And then if you drill down into the numbers and you look at the retail price index, which the Bank of England used to target, that's 11.7%. So that's above expectations. And then if you look at the PPI, which you won't hear much about on mainstream television, but that's the producer price index. That's the cost of the stuff that businesses need to produce the goods and services that they then sell to us. Hang on to your hat, Colin. It's 22.1% during the year to May 2022, which is the highest in almost 50 years.
Wow.
There's nothing good about these inflation numbers. There's a lot of spin going on from Downing Street by people, frankly, who don't really know much about economics and just stick to politics. These are very worrying numbers, particularly at the producer price index end, because they point to price pressures in the supply chain, price pressures to come.
Can I just talk about an unrelated, well, it's related, but indirectly. Yesterday, it was that story that seemed to be enormous but got very little attention. The triple lock on the pensions. We've got loads of emails from people, mainly from pensioners, state pensioners, actually saying, thank goodness, we deserve this. Our savings are being eroded by inflation. The government needs you to do something. And it's an extra £10 billion, however, for the Exchequer. Big numbers. And inflationary.
Now, I wouldn't begrudge any pensioner a bit more cash, but the reality is I don't think in the round that's really where most of the money is needed. That's not to say there's not pensioner poverty. There is certainly, several million people who have led distinguished lives in this country, are suffering from pensioner poverty. There are benefits specifically designed to be targeted at pensioners who have issues, whether it's to help them with their heating, their food, their mobility allowance, disability allowance, and so on. To restore the triple lock, which is effectively what the government's done for pensioners at a time like this, when so many, frankly, younger adults are struggling to make ends meet, when many lower income and even lower to middle income families with two working parents, often working multiple jobs, are struggling to make ends meet, strikes me as rather politically unambitious and maybe even tin-eared. Yes, of course, there is pensioner poverty. I would say there's much greater need among now the younger generations, particularly families of working age who are in work and who are suffering poverty, often with kids.
Sarah Elliott was nodding vigorously at that point, but was it because you're thinking, well, of course they're going to throw money at pensioners, they tend to vote for the government's party?
Yeah, well, there's that. But it's just a lazy policy. It's something they can say they've stuck to their manifesto, because it was in 2019.
Well, government should stick to the manifesto.
Yeah, of course, but this is unprecedented times. People are trying to get on the home ownership ladder. Young people have just been pillared after decades of quantitative easing and low interest rates. And now no one has savings. Everyone's still living with their mom and dad at age 30. No one's getting married and having children. We need to help younger people. But again, we're saving the baby boomers at the expense of millennials and xennials and everyone else.
First time I've heard of xennials. Enjoyed that. Why are you nodding so much?
Because I think she's exactly right. It's not as if everyone's living with their mum and dads, but we do know that a third of people under 30 are living with their mum and dads in their childhood bedrooms. Absolutely incredible. We also know that the Tories can rely on most pensioners, certainly in those swing seats, to vote for them. So if the Tories are having to bolster that true blue part of their vote, they can't be very confident about their electoral prospects. It's in the centre ground that British elections are won and lost, the centre ground demographically as well as politically, and I'd expect Downing Street to understand that. So I think unimaginative and unambitious, again, not to begrudge any pensioners their money, but we're all suffering, and I think their generation in the round is much better off than most.